Right, so we're going to attempt some surgery on a Sphero. I've got a number of these Spheros, and unfortunately after about 2 years the battery has pretty much exploded in them. They are dead, or they won't hold a charge off the cradle. You can actually see when you look in the side here, it's lifting the PC board up. It's expanded quite a lot. Now I've done one of these already, so I've succeeded in replacing the batteries. I managed to find some replacement batteries, lithium-ion batteries, that I was able to source. It cost me about $25 New Zealand, and they kind of fit. They're really just on the borderline, but the biggest problem I have is I have to replace this little unit with the one that's on there, and that's not too bad because we just end up sliding these out. So my attempt with this video is going to be to reproduce my one successful go at doing it, and that is I'm going to cut around the seam, just as an easy place to follow along. This will no longer be usable. Now this shell is really big and thick, as you're going to see, and I'm going to replace it with just a nice small bauble shell that I've got from a kind of a $2 shop, and it turns out to be just the right kind of size. It's from Christmas decorations. We'll just shave that piece off and we'll glue that back together. Now that is very light in comparison, so be aware that if you're going to be doing this kind of thing, you are going to end up with something that is going to be a lot more fragile. I mean, these things are really rock solid. In fact, it's really quite hard to even cut through it. I'll be going through with a Dremel. It's going to take me quite a while to get through. And this, by comparison, if I drop that, it's just going to probably crack and break, and I'm going to have to buy another one and stick them on. But they come in sets of 4 and they're very cheap. If there is a better case that's available, then that would be great. But this is all I've been able to find. So what I'm going to look at doing is cutting around the outside of this. I've got my Dremel here. I'll wind that up, and we're just going to get in, and we're just going to turn it off for a moment so you can hear me. We're just going to take a slice right the way around. We go fairly slowly, not quite getting through. We want to try and prevent too much dust going onto the inside, and when we finally break through, you'll see that it's quite thick. I'll come back to talking again then. I'll actually only show you a little bit of the video of my actual cutting it in half, and then we'll have a look at dissecting and see what's going on in there. So anyway, let's get underway with giving this a bit of a cut. Now you can actually use the cradle as a holder to help you, and what we're just going to do is just work our way through the outside edge. So you can see I've been cutting a little. Right, so I've got all the way through now, just a little bit holding it together, and we're about to open it apart, and you can see it's a really thick case, which is where it gets all of that strength from. So they did a really good job of making those. But if we were to replace the batteries and try and put this back together, we'd have a lot of trouble trying to match these two sides up. I suppose you could buff it back and then try and just get a little bead, a little filler, but it's trying to get that inside smooth so the wheels are going to run on it properly. That was going to be the hard problem. So here we are, we're into the unit, and you can see in there that the battery is not looking all that happy in there. So we're just going to lift the wheels off, and that will expose us to some screws that we're going to be needing to undo to be able to get down to this battery compartment here. So we'll just get a screwdriver into that. That's one of them. And that should give me the other one. There we go. Now this board is pressed in with a couple of sets of pins that are going down through, so we're going to just have to ease that apart. Prise it up a little bit. There we go, it's starting to pop out there now. A little bit more, there we go, and it's come apart. So that's lifted the top off, and that's going to be our orientation. Now these here are the battery connectors that we're going to be trying to get into this set here, I think it is. So we'll just put that to one side. When we come to put this back together again, we're going to be lining that up and that up there, and it only goes in the one way around. You can see there's 2 pins there that's going to go into the 2-pin slot that we've got over there, and the 4 pins going to be going in over here. Right, put that to one side. Now this little protector unit here we may or may not have room for when we go to put these batteries back in, but we're going to have to slide that out. It's might need to squeeze it in there to... Right, so I've just popped it out. Sorry, I had to do that off camera. And you see there's 2 little clips, so I'd like to squeeze those together a little bit to be able to get it to come out, but sometimes that seems to be a little bit more difficult. This one hopefully will come out a bit more easily if I push it across there and push this one across as well, and then we'll try and lever it up a little bit and it should come out for me. I don't think they really expected these to ever be taken apart, so we'll just have to press as best we can. I think that's got it now, and we should be able to get a bit of leverage on it to pop it out. There we go, that's got it out. So that's our little unit that's been sitting on the top there, and you can see what's happened to these batteries. This one's really blown itself up completely, and this one's not looking very happy either. So that's our next step, is to be able to make sure that we can get our batteries into there. So this one here has got to squeeze in, and it's basically the right thickness. It measures the right size, but it just seems to be a fraction longer with the wires, so we're going to have a bit of pressure to put on it in there. And as I say, we're going to have to take these pins off and substitute it for this one here. So I'm just going to and that means we don't actually have to take this off, which would just be a case of retracting that little plastic cover, and then we get access to the bottom of that pin. But if we stick to just chopping my 2 wires off here, the blue represents the positive, the red is positive, the black is negative, the black is negative, and we can replace our batteries like that. Okay, so I've snipped off the wires off the 2 dead batteries, our little exploded guys, and I've got some heat shrink cable, just fortunately the right 4 colours, nice thin heat shrink cable, so I've just popped that onto the end of these. I'm just going to tin those wires, then we're going to solder those onto our battery wires. I don't want these to be too long because these wires are quite fat, but if I make a mistake with them I want to have a little bit of room for them, so I'm going to take them back about there, and they're just slightly different lengths I like to work with. I want them fairly short because I've got to try and get these to join and then get that heat shrink to go over the top of them. So we'll just have a go at trying to solder a couple of these together. Right, so there are my two batteries, and I'm going to pop that back into the clip, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier for me to get it to orientate itself when we go and plug it in. So those cables are coming through like that, and that is going to sit down in there, and two of those going that way, two of those going that way. It's pressed into place. So success. That's a much better system than I had previously, which is trying to use the bigger wires. Now my issue is which way round am I going to place it to keep those wires out of the way, and I'm not sure yet if we can get them down the side of that or not. I don't think I can get them down the side. I think I'm going to have to leave them up the front here, in which case I'll twist them backwards and forwards like that. Yep, that looks like the best way to get that one in. That's in there nicely. So this one here we just got to work out. I think that one there, because I took the little extra piece out the bottom there, will squeeze in there nicely. There we go. Batteries in place, pressed in. And we're now ready to try and put our little clip back on. It's going to hold them down, although this isn't necessarily doing us all that much good. It's just a spacer, and it was the piece that was really bloated before, so that's popped in on the top. That's actually a much better fit than the very first one that I did. My wheels are turning okay in there. Right, and then the next step will be to slide this unit back on top. Now remember, we've got a 4, which is going to line up with the 4 on that side over there. So that's going to go there, line up all our little holes. Those are in there. That capacitor's got to slide down into that hole there. I need to get that capacitor down the hole first. Twist that there. Those in about the right position. These ones don't go in anywhere. That one there has got to come across a little bit more to there. There we go. Starting to line up, starting to press down, and voila, we are in position. Okay, so with a little bit of luck, you might even be able to get that to light up if I get some power. Just excuse me for a minute. I'm just going to be stealing some power from my phone, and we'll pop it into this unit. See whether that will. Yep. So that's lighting up. That's nice. So that will actually look like it will succeed in charging, and I should actually be able to then end up driving that one, which is very good news. So happy about that. This piece here now is going to have to go slot back into its position there. We've got to screw that down, of course, but what I want you just to have a look at is now if I take this ball, pop that in there, and my other bauble here, top, pop that on the top, you'll see that it does actually just fit in. We'll line those up in a moment, and sits on its cradle, and it should be able to, when it gets itself going a little bit, even reorient itself within that. Wait for some actual battery life to charge up those guys for the first moment, I think, but it's the first time that one's ever lit up in a long time, so yeah, success on that front. Actually, I might even be able to connect So here we go, we'll go into the Sphero app. It's showing it's there, but oh, that's looking better. It's actually lit up, and we're connected now, and you can see we're on charge at the moment, but not sure whether we've got very much charge, so let's just see what we can do. Yep, we've definitely got control of it, and we can aim. So it's fitting with inside the ball okay, and yay, I have a Sphero that is alive again, so that just needs to be left to charge up, and we should hopefully see some life in that sometime in the future. Disconnect, let it charge. Right, so here we are. It's the next day. I've had this charging up overnight, and it seems to be charged up. Here it is in here. I'll just connect up to it. Now that we've got some charged battery, it's getting in there much quicker, which is good. You can see we've got a full charge in there, so that's looking good. If we go into the drive mode, yep, you can see that it's just flipped it out of its case there because we haven't got any of that, but yeah, nice and strong, all looking good. So what we've got to do now, we'll just disconnect it, or actually we'll turn it off for the moment, and have to go back in and connect it actually to turn it off. I've just lost it. So I managed to turn the app off, so I've just got to get back to it. Here we go, we've got it on. And what I want to do is actually I want to turn off the robot. It's going to pull it to pieces again, because we have to put in, now that we've confirmed that it's going to be working, we're going to be putting this little couple of screws in. So just lift these off here, and the two screws we're going to need to make sure it's all going to be staying together. We're going to pop those back in, so get those into place. Okay. So that's going to hold it, and it'll actually make it a little bit smaller than it was, because it's being held together, which is good. And we're going to be placing our unit on top there. It's got it, and then we're ready to be able to pop this on top. We're going to squeeze it together, super glue around the edge to get that in there, and take off the top here. I'm not going to do that till I've super glued around the edge there, and I'll just snip that off and then file it back or sand it back. Okay, so we've just got to be really careful as we are putting this together and super gluing it together, how we're going to end up putting it on. So I'm going to use a brush on super glue. I'm going to have to be relatively quick with it. This one's a little old, but I don't really want to be getting it on my fingers, and I don't really want to be getting it anywhere near where those wheels might be. So I'm just coming around with the brush, spinning it around. Should be enough for me now to line this up, and we want to press it in and down as quickly and as firmly as we can. Here we go, and hold that together. It doesn't actually matter if I don't line those two up too much, because I am going to be cutting those off, but with a little bit of luck that's got all the way around, and I can actually go back with a little bit of super glue just to fill in the very small seam that I have in there, but it's a pretty good seam on the inside. So once that's done there, I can now just quickly click off two edges of this. There we go, left with a little bit of a burr there that we'll be able to take care of with a little bit of sandpaper. So I'm going to keep holding that. I'll grab my sandpaper out. I want to use some fairly fine sandpaper now. Do remember we've said that this is not strong, so it's going to burnish up pretty badly on carpet and things like that. It'll make a little bit more noise on the carpet, but it will actually let us bring them back to life. And if you're like me that has over 10 of these that you haven't been able to use, or if you've only got one that you haven't been able to use, it's a bit frustrating having something that's not possible to be used. So there we go, that's sitting in there. And now to be able to wake that guy back up, I've got to have power on the cradle, and plug that into there. That wakes it up, and there we go. Now we can actually see the unit working. Find the robot. There it is. That's looking better. Connected. Drive, we'll aim it around a bit first. There we go, and within the very small confines of where I am, you can see that we're working pretty well. So there you go, you are able to replace the batteries in a Sphero. Your biggest limitation, and I was about to do my second one here, which I will edit into this, but your biggest limitation is actually getting hold of some batteries. I just tried to order some more of these, and they're out of stock at the moment due to COVID, so I'm going to have to wait before I can actually place new batteries in my other ones. But finding some that will fit, and yeah, as I say, if you chop off the leads, you'll probably find that's a better bet than my first one that I had done, which was just to force them in and do some surgery. So finding yourself one of these Christmas tree baubles that's the right size, shouldn't be too hard. I got them in a $2 shop, and yeah, 4 for $2, cheap as. Good luck.